President-elect Donald Trump is amplifying his push for U.S. control of the Panama Canal and the Danish territory of Greenland. He also talked about Canada wanting to annex it.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before.
I give you the next president of Earth.
In 1893, U.S. Congressman Lucas Miller proposed a constitutional amendment that would change the name of the United States of America to the United States of Earth. He believed that by acquiring more and more states, America would grow and grow and eventually envelop the entire planet. The amendment was shot down, and to us it seems like a ridiculous idea. But is it? President Donald Trump has made it very clear that he wants to annex Greenland, as well as the Panama Canal. He's even hinted at annexing Canada. It's a very real possibility that America could expand in the next 4 years, and we need to ask ourselves, is that a good thing? How big should countries be? On one extreme, we could divide the world into a million tiny city-states like medieval Europe. On the other extreme, we could unite into a single massive one-world government. Which is better? Should America annex Greenland and Canada, or should we disintegrate into microstates? Should we divide the world into a million tiny Liechtensteins? Or should we unite all of humanity under the banner of the United States of Earth? How big should countries be?
Give me back my allegiance! The Council of Rome!
In 1312, the Italian poet Dante, yes, the guy who wrote the Inferno, wrote a political treatise called De Monarchia. In that text, he laments the fall of the Roman Empire and calls for the whole world to reunite under a single global monarchy. He writes, "What has been the condition of the world since that day the seamless robe of Pax Romana first suffered mutilation by the claws of avarice? O human race, what tempest must need toss thee? What treasures be thrown into the sea? What shipwrecks must be endured, so long as thou, like a beast of many heads, strivest after diverse ends?" He then goes on to quote the Bible. "Behold, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity." The argument he's making is a simple one. After the fall of Rome, Europe split into dozens of tiny nations, all with different goals and ambitions, squabbling with each other instead of uniting towards a common goal. The most obvious benefit of large countries is that there's less war. Just look at medieval Europe. A constant state of bloodshed because every tiny country had disagreements with every other tiny country. Without a higher power to appeal to, the only way to solve those disagreements was through war. Just compare America to Europe. The US is roughly the same size as Europe, but over the last 200 years, the European nations have invaded and conquered and bombed each other dozens of times, while the American states have mostly gotten along. The Civil War was a notable exception, but most of the time, as a rule, you don't see Vermont invading New Hampshire or Florida annexing Georgia or Virginia launching airstrikes on New York. Why? Because there's a higher power to appeal to. If Virginia and New York disagree about borders, the federal government comes in and arbitrates. There are precedents and chains of appeal that we all agree to respect. It's game theory. New York respects the federal government even when it's not in their favor because it keeps order. As much as the federal government prevents them from invading Virginia, it also prevents Virginia from invading them. In the Federalist Papers, Alexander Hamilton argues that a strong federal government is necessary for keeping the peace, not only by preventing internal strife, but also by protecting against foreign invaders. Imagine if China decided to invade America. Since we have a unified federal government with a unified military, it's very easy to coordinate a defense. But if America consisted of a million tiny Liechtensteins, every single microstate would have to pitch together and cooperate. If you've ever tried to run a group project, you know that's not going to happen. Every microstate will disagree on strategies and supply chains and battle lines and alliances. And by the time we all agree on a plan, we'll be speaking Mandarin. Of course, there is a flip side. A unified military makes it easier to wage wars of defense, but it also makes it easier to wage wars of aggression. But I think that trade-off is worth it. I'd rather have a big war every once in a while than have constant tiny petty wars. There might be higher odds of large-scale aggression, but the victims will also be large, so they'll be able to defend themselves. In Federalist 12, Hamilton points out that smaller countries means more borders. North Dakota wouldn't just have one international border with Canada, it would have international borders with South Dakota, and Minnesota, and Montana, and all 4 borders would have to be patrolled for illegal immigrants. Borders are expensive. Borders are inefficient. They're necessary, but if you've ever traveled abroad, you know what a pain they are. To cross the border into Canada, you have to wait in a long line of cars, and they have to check your passport, and sometimes they search your car. Imagine if you had to go through that every time you crossed any state border. Bigger countries can pool more resources. They have more power to carry out grand and ambitious projects. So let's do it. Let's unite the whole world under one glorious banner. The sun will never set on the United States of Earth. Not so fast.
Hans-Hermann Hoppe, schön sind Sie da, Herr Hoppe. Der Traum vom vereinten Europa, die ewige Sehnsucht des Imperiums. Träumen Sie diesen Traum auch?
Nein, ich träume von dem Traum überhaupt nicht. Mein Traum ist der Traum eines Europas aus 1000 Liechtensteins.
If you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I'm not the biggest fan of imperialism. I think it's good that America won its independence. I think it's good that Ireland won its independence. Why? If large countries have so many benefits, why would I want the Irish to be independent? Shouldn't I want them to be part of the British Empire? Heck, shouldn't I want the whole world to be part of the British Empire? Well, no. I believe that nations are more than just abstract political structures. Ireland has a unique culture and people and heritage, so the British Empire could never fully understand their needs and their wants and their national character.
I was born in the Dublin street where the loyal drums do beat, and the loving English beat walked all over us, where each and every night when my dad would come home tight, he'd call the neighbours out with this chorus. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your white value and medals down in Flanders. Show her how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lanes of Killashandra.
It's the problem of local knowledge. The simple fact is that people understand their hometown better than they understand the town next door. People are better informed about things that are closer to them. So the Irish understand their own land, their own local politics and environment and customs better than the British do. That is the downside of big countries. Let's pretend I'm the president of Earth. I don't have time to research in depth about every single country on the planet, let alone every single county or every single town. No matter how smart I am, I just can't know all the local circumstances and cultures and ecosystems. That will lead me to make mistakes, because what's good for most regions might be really bad for some regions. For any legislation I pass, even if it's a good idea for 98% of people, there will be somewhere on Earth that's an exception or an edge case that a one-world government can't take into account. The other problem with large countries is local affection, the natural love people have for their hometown and their home state and the culture they grew up in. Some politician who grew up in New York and lives in Washington, D.C. isn't going to care that much about my small town in rural Florida. But a politician who grew up in my town and lives in my neighborhood, he will care deeply about us because this is his home. So let's say the federal government decides to plow down my local forest and build a military base. As a local, I'd be outraged. That's my forest. I grew up playing in those trees. You can't just destroy it. But if my town is part of a large nation, the federal government can overrule me. It's the tyranny of the majority. Most voters in the country don't care about my childhood forest. It doesn't mean anything to them. It's just a dot on the map. So my forest gets plowed down, and I just have to shrug my shoulders and move on. We're right back to our original question. How big should countries be? On the one hand, large countries are better at keeping peace by settling internal disputes and defending against invaders. They can pool resources to carry out large-scale projects, and they can maintain reasonable borders without having a border between every single town. On the other hand, local governments are more caring and have a better understanding of local problems. Man, if only there were a system that combined the benefits of both.
I give you the next president of Earth.
Nixon's back!
Federalism is the best of both worlds. It's one of the founding principles behind America's Constitution. The idea is simple. Small, local governments maintain full independence over local matters, but a larger federal government settles disputes between the local governments and maintains a military and borders. As you can see, federalism includes all the upsides of large and small nations alike. It's a philosophy that rejects imperialism, but also encourages unity. In a federalist system, Ireland would be allowed full autonomy over its own internal affairs, but it would still be part of the UK. The UK would maintain a common military and settle disputes between its different provinces: Wales, Britain, Scotland, and Ireland. The UK, in turn, would be one province of the European Federation, which would be one province of the United States of Earth, which would be one province of the United States of the galaxy, and so on. I would love to see humanity united under one banner, working towards a common goal, no longer divided by petty wars. Let me be absolutely clear. I'm not defending imperialism. Imperialism doesn't work because it subjects a culture and a people to the rule of foreigners. In my model, each culture would maintain independence and self-government, but they would be joined together in a single tapestry. E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. Our Patreon question of the week comes from my friend Honorary A, who asks, are you a dog person or a cat person? I'm really very ecumenical. I love them both. I have 3 dogs, Garm, Max, and then Sergeant, who's our farm dog. They're the best, they truly are man's best friend. But I also have 2 cats, Leo and Swampy, and they're also so funny. So, I don't know, I love them both in their separate ways. I'm probably more of a dog person, but if you're a cat person, I can respect that. Sergeant, come here, buddy. Come here. What's going on? What's going on? These are exciting times. The channel is growing. People are waking up. The masses are becoming Arthur Greenwood pilled. But we still have a long way to go. My last channel was demonetized, and they might do the exact same thing to this one. So, if you like what I do and you want to help me out, if you want to help my channel grow, there are 4 things you can do. 1. Leave a comment. Just say anything, literally anything, and that will be a huge help for the algorithm. 2. Send the video to a friend. I know you have some normie friend who needs to hear this. 4, most importantly, consider joining my Patreon. You'll get access to the Arthur Greenwood archive, where you can watch my really controversial videos that I can't put on YouTube, including my really old videos from when I was like a democratic Vaushite socialist. There's even the hour-long debate I had about anarcho-capitalism. You'll also get to join our members-only Discord server, where you can talk with me and the boys about life and politics and history. It's a great time. We have weekly phone calls, and I have genuinely become really good friends with some of the guys in the server. Because we have to stick together, It's rough out there. We need networks of highly disciplined, highly intelligent men. If you want to join my network, all it costs is $1 a month. That adds up to $12 a year, which is nothing. That's less than an hour of work. And in exchange, you get to be my friend forever.